PPIE is such a broad area, and the context is quite important in terms of the type of funding scheme that applicants are looking at. But fundamentally, it should be the involvement of public or patients, and the two terms are often used interchangeably in PPIE, and how the researcher intends to include patients and public in their research. And it's really important when they're looking at that section that they take into account their research question and when they start thinking about involving people. So the description should make it clear that it's public and patients, and its involvement and engagement, because they're all subtly different. And it should be clear that that's at all stages of the research. So it's not just engaging with the public towards the end of the project to talk about results. It's about engaging with the public, and I think more importantly, for the research projects I look at, patients in the particular therapeutic area the research is aimed at, if that's appropriate, and making it clear that the engagement cannot be too early. So a researcher in any clinical or health environment, when they're thinking about research ideas, should share that thinking, kick ideas around with patient groups. And again, it depends so much on the context, whether they're a clinician or a social care professional. Their environment, the community they work in, it's never too soon to engage. And that should work all the way through. There are some useful terms around PPIE, like co-creation, co-development, and co-production, where that public patient voice is embedded right in the research proposal, and you see it all the way through. So that's, to my mind, what should be included, and the proposal itself should really sing about that engagement. Sometimes in looking at applications, the PPIE bit of the response is a paragraph just bolted into the main application, and that doesn't fill me with hope that they're going to be fully engaged. The better ones, they're talking to patients or the public early on as they describe their CV, for example, and where they've worked with patients in co-production, or they've done patient groups in research projects previously. And it should be popping up right through the application in every relevant section, and not just in the bit of the application that asks them about PPIE. They should be thinking about PPIE all the way through. And I've read some really good applications where you see from the get-go, when they're talking about their previous projects, they're talking about patient groups, advisory groups, how they've engaged, how they've involved those people, and you see it again and again and again in responses to most of the sections in the research application. If it smacks at all of box ticking, then that's a huge red flag. And I say that because I've been involved in a wide range of research projects on advisory panels as a participant and as a co-creator. And very rarely you get a sense that you're just there to make up numbers. The advisory panel is there because they need an advisory panel, not because you're an integral part of the project. Thankfully, that is very uncommon and is, I think, getting rarer and rarer as the grant awarding bodies like Health and Care Research make it much clearer how important this area is. Not just for the research, to get the research tuned to what the core needs are, but also for the participants and the people like me that are doing the PPIE. We get a lot out of the role, and it's frustrating when the researchers don't make as much of the resource that we are as they could. So I hope that answers the question. It's having PPIE embedded right through the application. So it's clearly something they're thinking about at all stages, ideally at the ideas generation stage, or when they think they've spotted an interesting research problem, to involve patients and the public in talking around and about it. I've been involved as a PPIE representative with a researcher at a UK university from the stage they were looking at PhD projects and looking for funding for a PhD, right the way through to them now being part of a major research group and getting involved in major research projects. And, you know, that's a good example of someone that has built an advisory group for patients in her area and carried that group with her through her research career. And in any application they'd be writing, that would, as I said earlier, that would really sing from the whole application that they've done this, been doing this from early days right through to the current project. So yes, what I'm looking for is a sense that PPIE is just something that's fundamental to the research project. And beyond that, I wouldn't be looking for a huge amount of detail, because the detail of how they do the PPIE will depend a bit on how much funding there is set aside for PPIE and the particular context. But the fact that it's fundamentally sewn through the whole research proposal is a crucial bit for me, because the detail on how they're going to do it, there's a lot of advice and support around that. The bit that would concern me most is, again, as I said earlier, any sense that it's a box ticking exercise for them. For the grant awards I've been looking at, that's been less of an issue, and a sense that those kind of issues are on their radar is important, and a sense that their ideas for PPIE and advisory groups and so on will make good use of the budget is important. But really, for me, it's that coming away from reading the application with a real sense that they understand PPIE and they know how important it is, and they're going to make good use of the budget. But I don't normally look for I haven't reviewed a grant project or a grant scheme where PPI has been down at that degree of detail. Yes, I think there's one very important part of PPIE, and this is from the patient perspective. It's probably from the public perspective as well, but from my experience as a patient, a stroke survivor, and being involved in research projects, there's a huge sense of validation and purpose, and that is common, I think, across the piece, chatting to people with other issues that have had other diseases and things like that. The fact that their voice matters, they can get involved in research, they can help advise researchers as to nuances of the research question that they might not have thought about, and feeling that, again, personally, as a stroke survivor, feeling that I've been through all of that, I've come out the other end, I've had fabulous treatment, and if there's one thing I can talk about, is talking about what it's been like to have a stroke in my case, and to sense that voice is important still, as I said earlier, is a huge bonus for me. So, when people are thinking about PPIE, they need to be thinking of that advisory group or whatever the engagement is as it's giving the people on it a huge amount of sense of validation, and that doesn't belie the fact that we are critical friends, and if we don't like something that we see in the research or think it's gone off tangent a bit, we'll be happy to say that. But I like that critical friend bit about reviewers or advisory group members, and it's about having constructive criticism and helping steer research in the right area to help that particular patient group. So yeah, that's me.